But before I venture into potentially hostile territory, I have to get my guests situated and a suitable force mustered. I have one of the ants and its escorts lead the group of prisoners into the starting room where they will be staying for the foreseeable future. I also station one of the other ants to guard the core in case something were to happen in my leave. As for the rest of my drones, I send one of the spiders to start scrapping the corpses of those moose things, which leaves me with myself, an ant, 5 spiders, and the scout rats. I might be able to bolster those numbers up once the scrap starts getting processed again. But until then, this is all I got. Speaking about scrap, I haven't looked at the drones that attacked me yet. Better do that before they get scrapped. Walking to the most intact corpse, I pull up the description for the drone. The Multi-Use Rural Courier, or the MRC, is the most common courier drone used in open areas. While lightly armored and armed, they make up for it with their increased speed and maneuverability. Although they were primarily used to ship things between various settlements, they were built to support modules and thus could be used in a variety of situations if fitted correctly. Interesting. Although not very helpful, seeing that this is where everything is currently, that may change later. As I am finishing that, though, the one drone stationed to carry the corpses to the refinery tugs at the moose thing to little effect. Oh yeah, you're probably not big enough to do that. Well, I got arms now. Might as well use them. I pick up the scrap with a grunt and place it on my shoulder while walking over to the refinery. Sliding the corpse into the chute, the refinery greedily gobbles it up. Repeating this process for the 2 others, my supply of building materials returned back to reasonable levels. Well, with that done, I can now start the trip to the tower. Gathering my cobbled-together expedition group, I walk out of the factory and onto the street. My scouts inform me that the tower was about a 10-minute trek from my current position. Following the instructions of my scouts, my drones and I slowly make our way past the various ruined buildings and destroyed wrecks of rusted-down drones. As we were turning a corner, my scouts hurriedly notify me that potentially hostile drones meandering about on the street to my left. Instructing my drones to stay back, I risk a glance from behind the corner. The drones were roughly the size and shape of a hound, and there were 3 of them, all searching for something. Well then, I guess it's time to find out how good this suit is at combat. I rush forward with my drones and reach a third of the way to the hostile drones before they notice me lumbering toward them. They form a combat stance and brace for impact, predicting that I would charge through them with my greater bulk. But I decided to surprise them by suddenly making a bolt to the right of the drones and kicking one in the midsection, caving in its metal frame. Then, while they are distracted with me, my drones crash into the hounds and crushed one's head in with a powerful crunch from the ant. The spiders riding on the ant quickly disembark and attack the final one with quick snips and bites at the defenseless drones. I put down the hound with a stomp on its head, and the drone spasms for a few seconds before finally succumbing to its wounds. Well then, that went better than expected. Great job, guys. Oh yes, scouts. Mind marking down this location so we can grab the scrap on our way back? One of the scouts in question messages in the affirmative and continues to do reconnaissance on the path ahead. With the short skirmish over, I continue on the path with my drones quickly falling in behind. For the most part, the rest of the trek was uneventful, aside from the occasional spook from the bird things. Thankfully, they seemed to be hesitant about going after my little group, likely because of the risk of retaliation. It did not take very long to eventually reach the looming tower, and as I make my way up the stairs to the front door, I hear a yell come from inside the tower. "You there! Halt at once, or you will be fired upon!" The voice announces from somewhere on the 2nd floor. Deciding not to risk it, I order my drones to stop moving as I begin to scan the building for the origin of the voice. "Hello, whoever you are. I would like to have an audience with the chief of this land. It seems I have acquired possession of something dear to them." The voice is silent for a moment, probably conversing with someone, and then yells back, "Very well, leave your drones outside." Deciding worst-case scenario. I just make another vessel drone. I tell my drones to be ready to leave if I am to be destroyed. After that, I stride into the unlocked doors, and I immediately am faced with a wall of pikes and some sort of ranged weaponry pointed at me. What is it you want, and what do you have that you believe is important to me? The lead robot, a red-painted, questions. Well, it seems I have under my possession a few of your numbers after the apparent chieftain's son attacked my compound. A few bots in the line shift as if realizing what I was talking about. The chief held a steely glare as he growled back, "What have you done to my son?" "Oh, nothing yet, but it would be a shame if something were to happen to them. Isn't that right?" The chief does not respond. Shall we begin negotiations? The negotiations went smoothly for the most part. In exchange for the valued guests of mine, I gain a large amount of scrap, electronic components, and a guarantee that the Tower Tribe will not interfere with me or my future associates as long as it does not endanger them. When it came to the situation with GW3N, the chieftain argued that she, as I learned that genders are in fact a thing here, should be returned to the tribe since she was still technically a part of it. I disagreed and countered that she chose to stay with me, so unless she changes her mind, I will not be relinquishing her from my care. We eventually came to an agreement that if she says that she wishes to remain within my jurisdiction, then that is final. If she does in fact wishes to leave, I am not to stop her and she will leave with the rest of the bots. On that topic, the chieftain requested that he could bring a team of 12 guards to escort their fellow tribesmen to safety, citing the various hostile drones wandering the streets. Finding this to be acceptable terms, I agree, and we set off back to base, although I leave the supplies there for now seeing as I do not have enough drones to ship it all back to base. For the first few minutes, it was quite awkward between me and the guards as they began to idly chatter with each other as the trip went on. Overhearing a few bits of random chatter about recent events, like a few random sightings of drones and how someone in the tribe was found dating another. Then, a screech rings out from across the sky. Snapping my attention to the source of the unexpected noise, my eyes soon find purchase on a large flock of around a dozen those bird things swooping down straight for us. "Take cover in the buildings," I shout out, but to my dismay, the guards seem to have frozen in fear. Groaning internally, I have my drones form a sacrificial line between the guards and the incoming attackers. While they do this, I shake one of the guards, who I assume was their leader, with the whole fancy hat thing. This seemed to disperse the man's stupor as he quickly realized what was happening and immediately ordered his men to make it to the nearest building. The guards complied with this order without complaint as they burst into the buildings on our right. Following them, I pull back my drones as they were about to be hit by the swarm of birds. Unfortunately, it was too late as 3 of the 5 spiders were snatched up and my aunt received a few gashes, but ultimately made it out. Hearing a cry of pain from behind me, I spot a downed guard being mauled by one of the birds. Before I could finish processing this, my body went into motion. I rushed forward to the guard and their attacker and proceeded to drop-kick the bird in the chest. Not bothering to look at the damage I just inflicted, I scoop up the heavily injured guard and bolt to the door. My drones make it in a few seconds before me, and the injured guard, and I slip in and slam the door shut just as a pair of claws collide with the newly obstructing door. I breathe a sigh of relief as I see that the rest of the robots made it back safely, aside from the few glancing scrape or slashes. Then, as if just noticing their mangled comrade, I hear a voice from the crowd. "B3N!" As if having opened the floodgates, all the other guards rush over to see what had happened to their compatriots. Another voice calls out, "Captain, do we have any repair kits? B3N's injured." Shit. We were supposed to get a resupply 3 days ago, but it was redirected to another squad. The captain responded with not a little amount of frustration in his voice. Deciding enough was enough, I speak loud enough for everyone to hear. "Don't worry, my drones can fix him up." I order my 2 remaining spider scuttle over to the injured guard and begin reassembling the damaged parts. There was a great deal of stress in the air as my drones worked, clearly because they felt conflicted about their supposed enemy patching up their fallen comrade. Most of the guards spent their time milling about and creating short-lived chatter. Occasionally, one of them would open the door to see if the birds were still outside, but every time someone did, the birds would swoop down and the door would be swiftly shut. Deciding to end the current stretch of silence, I ask, "Hey, do you guys consume anything? I assume you would need power of some sort, but I have never seen my drones do anything of the sort." Some of the guards look around at each other, unsure of who should respond. Finally, one decides to step up and says, "We usually hook up to one of the batteries connected to the solar panels every day or two." "Wait, your drones don't need to do that?" The guard looked perplexed as he asked the question. "I have never witnessed them do such a thing. The closest I have seen them do anything like that was when they lay down for a few hours before getting back up." I answer back. Silence reigned for the next few hours, as we collectively decided that opening the door just aggravated the birds more. Looking back over to the guard, B3N, and I'm happily surprised to see that the repairs are almost complete and that it will only take a dozen or so minutes. I relay the information to the others, and they visibly sigh in relief. Deciding to take a look outside for myself, I order my scout rats to check if the birds have gone away yet. Thankfully, my scouts report that they have and that it is clear to head back. After informing the captain that the coast was clear now, I carefully open the door and peek out. Seeing no signs of the birds being here, aside from the mangled corpses of my spider drones and the bird drone that I kicked. Giving the all clear, the guards and I decide that we would rather not be outside for very long and quickly hustle our way over to base camp. Upon arriving back, I can clearly see that everything is still in order. My guard drones are still taking out the occasional rat raid, the core has not blown up yet, and the captives have not moved from where I left them. Ah, it's good to be home,